In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to scale your consulting or agency business to $30,000 a month in 2026 from wherever you are right now to consistent $30, $50, even $100,000 a month. And this is a full-length course that's completely free. This is the exact process that I've used to go from $18,000 in debt to $44,000 in the last 30 days, and the same systems that I've used to help clients like Mondo go from $30K to over $150,000 a month, and Wajid go from negative $11.5K in debt to $20,000 to $30,000 in 60 days. Now, this isn't going to be your basic scale your agency video where I tell you to post more content and run more ads. I'm going to show you a real system, the one that actually works in 2026, so you can stop guessing, you can stop burning money on ads that don't convert, and finally build a business that scales predictably. The video will cover everything: building an offer that attracts qualified buyers, running profitable paid ads with the right messaging, installing back-end systems and tracking so you can actually know what's working, the exact sales process that gets you higher show rates and even higher close rates. By the end of this, you're gonna have a complete blueprint. You won't need to watch another video on how to scale your consulting business. So grab a notebook and turn off your distractions, and let's get right into it. Now, before we dive into the system, you need to understand why most agency owners and consultants never actually break through the $30,000 a month mark. It's not because they don't work hard enough, and it's also not because their offer sucks. It's simply because they're missing the right systems. Now, here is what the most people do. So the common problems that they face is they're running ads at $50 to $100 a day with no real strategy or even a process, and they're just essentially hoping that something sticks, right? They're throwing everything at the wall and just hoping that it sticks. Okay, they essentially have to talk to unqualified leads who just want free education and not buy. They literally have people show up just saying, like, what do you do? How do you do it? I'm not even here to buy anything. So they just waste your time, your sales team's time. They have no back-end tracking, so they don't know their cost per lead. They don't know their cost per booking. They don't know their show rate. They don't know their close rate. Essentially just running blind. Okay, they have no real sales process, so the prospects don't take them seriously and literally only show up for education, like I had mentioned. Okay, and they have no fulfillment systems, so even when they do close the clients, they can't deliver results consistently, so all that happens is they churn a month later. Now, before we do dive into the system, you need to understand why most agency owners and even consultants never actually break through that $30,000 a month mark. It's not because they don't work hard enough, and it's not because your offer sucks. It is simply because of one reason. It's because you're missing the right systems. Okay, now here's what most people do. The common problems I see the most is that people are running ads at $50 to $100 a day with no real strategy or even a process to put behind it. So they're literally just throwing shit at the wall and hoping that it sticks. Okay, and that's the worst thing that you could possibly do. Another thing that they do is they talk to unqualified leads who want free education, not to buy. So people are literally showing up to the calls and they're no intention to buy from you. Okay, they have no back-end tracking, so they don't know their cost per lead or their cost per booking, even their show rate, and the most important is the close rate, right? So they don't know any sort of metrics. They're literally just turning on ads and blowing money with no sort of sense of the metrics and what's actually going on behind the system. They have no real sales process, so the prospects don't even take them seriously. Like I mentioned, people literally show up to your calls just to have education. Like, they literally show up, waste your time, waste your sales team's time, waste your money you spent, and then they just want education. Okay, and they have no fulfillment systems, so when they actually do close clients, the biggest thing that happens is they get no results, and then all they do is churn 30 days later. Okay, so I've been here before, and this is essentially what I did for years. Like, I actually did this for years, and then I went into $18,000 in debt. Literally went $18,000 in debt because I thought for sure I had the systems. I'm not going to fail. I just need to make it work. I need to figure out what that process is. Okay. So I bought courses. I joined masterminds. I spent $40,000 in 1 year alone on masterminds, some of the biggest names on earth, and I still felt lost. Ultimately, as you can see, here's a screenshot. It's not the total 18,000, but you can see I'm $10,000 in debt at the time. This is what got me into this position. I literally ran on a system that didn't even work with no sort of process, no true process, and it ultimately got me stuck in $18,000 of debt. But then I figured out the right way to do it. Okay, so once I did, everything essentially changed for me because in the first 8 months, I cash collected $104,000, and even last month I did $27,000, and in the last 30 days I did $44,327, as you can see here on the screen. So the proof is in the pudding. Just for reference, November 20th to December 20th, $29,327 on WAP, and then on fan basis here. Now, I didn't stay here the entire time because I eventually figured it out, right? I went from doing $18,000 in debt, I was negative, to then going the first 8 months, I cash collected $104,000, and even last month, I did $27,000 cash collected, and then the last 30 days, I did $44,327 cash collected. Now, not only myself is seeing results, my client Mondo went from $30,000 to over $150,000 and got featured on Iman Gotzi's channel. We had Wajid, who went from negative 11.5K in debt to $20,000 to $30,000 a month in less than 60 days. And we also had Cameron. He went from selling $500 packages to closing $3,500 deals with prospects that are spending $10,000 a month on ads. Okay. Now, let me explain the right way to do this, okay? You don't just run ads and hope. You build a system that attracts only qualified buyers, and that is essentially how I hit the $44,000 last month. These qualified buyers are going to be nurtured with proof and value and gets them to book calls that are already knowing who you are, what you do, so by the time you talk to them, they're ready to buy. There's no more education. We cut all that out, give them all the proof and the value up front, and that's the foundation of everything that I'm about to teach you right now. So let's get right into the system and break the whole thing down. So phase 1 of 5 is building an offer that attracts qualified buyers. Now, what do I mean? Step number 1 in this phase is essentially, who are you targeting? Are you targeting the right people, or are you just targeting people that essentially are broke and have no money and could never actually afford or even have interest in your services? So for me, who I target agencies, coaches, and consultants that are male from 18 to 24 years old that are doing $20,000 to $50,000 a month. Okay, that is the baseline of who I target. Now, the actual problems and things that I'm target specifically so that I can relate to these people is 1, paid ads. So typically these guys are stuck in and around $50 to $100 a day that have no real sales process or even no real process with their ads. Number 2 is their messaging is off. So essentially what's happening here is their messaging is so off, it doesn't relate to the prospect, and they don't essentially get the right people to come in through their funnel. Right? They are trying to target the guys that are doing $50,000 to $100,000 a month, but the only people that are actually coming through are people that are brand new or making $5,000 a month. Okay, so the messaging is completely off, and then another one here is low show rate and the low closing rates. So their prospects show up to the calls, like I've mentioned a few times now, if for education and not to actually buy. So it just demolishes your show rate, it demolishes your close rate, and then essentially what happens is you're gonna have a lot of sales reps that come through and just churn and burn because they don't actually have anything that can keep them going. Okay, now what you want to avoid with doing this is I help everyone in that business, right? I help every single business. You do not want to be a generalist. You want to be a specialist. I'm not going to tell you that I can sit here and help you with absolutely everything, right? I will give you a proven process to scale with paid ads, because ultimately paid ads is what's going to get you to that next level. Even if you're running organic, you're doing $30,000, $40,000. The only way to really get to that next level is if you drive traffic through paid ads. That way it can boost you in a quick amount of time. Okay, so the targeting has to be very specific, and you have to get really honed in on who your ICP is. So the person that you're targeting, you want to figure out who that is, and then from there, figure out a few problems and go all in. Now, step number 2, okay, what you want to do is build an offer around implementation, not just coaching. People don't want coaching, okay? They want the implementation. They want to see how you can actually take this information and give it to them. That way they can implement it. They don't want to be coached, okay? Now, for me, what I do is I have one-on-one access to me. So all of my clients, anyone that works with me, essentially what they get is one-on-one access to me. They get 1 call a week where essentially I break down everything within their business. They come to me with all their problems that week, whether it's their clients, themselves, and we figure out how we can scale them to that next level, okay? Now, as well, what they get is 3 group calls per week. Now, these aren't 50 to 100 people group calls, okay? How I run my group calls is very, very similar to a one-on-one call. There's about 5 to 10 people in these calls at a time, and I start every single call by answering all these questions, making sure I get everything out of the way. So you don't have to sit on a call for 30 minutes and then ultimately not get your questions answered, because I've been there before. Like I mentioned, I've bought masterminds and I've bought courses. I know how they are. So you get in there, I answer all the questions, and then I also get into trainings once everyone's gotten their questions out of the way. So I teach you things like paid ads. I teach you things like the show up rate processes, how to close more deals, how to close deals at a higher rate. So you're not closing for $500 to $1,000 a month, because that's not what you want, right? You want to close guys that are doing $3,500 upwards of $10,000 deals. Okay. Now, as well, what they get is all of my systems. So all the ad strategies, all the sales scripts, all the tracking dashboards, which I'll get into, all my onboarding systems, my fulfillment SOPs, absolutely everything that is going to allow you to scale your business, your consulting business, your agency to that next level and get to the $100,000 a month mark. Okay. And then the last thing here is personalized plans. I hate things that aren't personalized. How the hell am I supposed to scale your business if you come to me and I give you the same information that everyone else got? It wouldn't make any sense. Your business and my business are completely different, and your business and another client of mine's business are completely different. So I have to create a personalized plan for every single one of you that comes through here. And I essentially don't do cookie cutter. I sit down with you on our onboarding call and we go over absolutely everything. Okay. So step number 3 is positioning your offer around real results. As you guys know, I took my client Mondo from $30,000 a month upwards of $150,000 a month, okay, using the exact systems. I also took Wajid, who's a negative 11.5K in debt, from going course to course with no results for 6 months. Taking 6 months running ads, buying courses, was negative 11.5K in debt, to then going on in less than 60 days working with me. He closed in between $20,000 to $30,000 in that less than 60 days. Okay. We also have Cameron. Like I mentioned, you don't want to be selling $500 to $1,000 retainers. They are not going to get you to where you want to be, and it's not the right type of prospect you want to work with. So Cameron was doing just that. We repositioned his offer, and then he went on to close $3,500 deals. And that is what he's doing now. He's closing $3,500 deals with people that want to spend upwards of $10,000 on ads. So as you can see, everything that I do is I reposition myself and reposition my results. Okay. Again, $15,000 here. Another one of me closing a sales call in 24 minutes, cash collecting $7,000, transferring $7,000 to my bank account, a bunch of client results. Again, another $2,800 to the account, another $3,000, another payout of $3,200. Why do I do this? It's because I'm showing proof. I don't want to keep talking about myself and saying I'm this, this, this. I'm just going to show you the proof and the value. And then therefore, people are going to want to work with me, just exactly how you should be doing as well. As you can see here, I've bought masterminds. I've been in them. I had a testimonial that shows I've actually cash collected $8,000 deals. And that's what I used to do. So I had taken this and used it to my advantage to show people like, look, I've also invested in masterminds. And not only that, I've actually done what you want to do. I've done $8,000 deals consistently with local businesses. Okay. Now, that is essentially step number 3 of the phase 1. I want to get now into phase number 2. And phase number 2, essentially what that is paid ads that actually work. So no more burning money, no more guessing, no more hoping that is going to work. And number 1, the step number 1 of this process in phase 2 is going to be stop targeting broke people. Now, the wrong way to go about this and targeting people is talking to, for example, struggling agency owners or struggling business owners. If you're calling out the bottom of your market, you're always going to have a problem. You're not going to have cash collected. Your deals are people are going to have to throw objections saying your deal size is way too big, right? People who want to make money online, I try to avoid. And what I mean by that is like they haven't gotten into the space and they just want to say, oh, I want to make money online. What do you want to do, right? That's a beginner. Another one is the bottom of their market. So brokies for that matter. So you want to avoid any of this. This is the wrong way of doing operations. So talking about the struggling businesses, talking to people who don't essentially have a game plan already, don't have a vision of what they want to do. They're just all over the place and hoping that you can be the savior. And then people at the bottom of their market. So yes, maybe they've gotten into the space doing what you can help them with, but they're at the very, very bottom, essentially just starting out. Now, how do I target? If you're already doing $20,000 to $50,000 a month and you want to scale to $100,000 a month, this is for you. That's how I call people out. Right? Agency owners stuck at $30K a month who can't break that ceiling. If they're running paid ads, I will literally call that out. Are you stuck running paid ads at $50 to $100 a day and you want to start to scale upwards to $500 to $1,000 a day? This is for you. Right? That's how I put out my messaging. That's my wording. And that's how I target people. As you can see, I'm not saying, hey, do you want to start running paid ads? What I say is, hey, are you already running paid ads doing $50 to $100 a day and you can't break to that next level? I'm calling out someone who's already got the problem that I can fix. They're already in that step. They're not trying to get into it. They're already there and they're already having the problem, so I can come in and fix that. And as well, I call it the top of my market. So the winners, the guys that are doing $30,000, $50,000. That is essentially step number 1 of phase 2. So step number 2 is use proof-based ads. So not just go ahead and book a call. Now that is the lazy way to run ads, okay? Just CTA someone without proof, without value, and then just say, book a call to scale your business. That is the complete wrong way to do things. And if you're doing that, it's probably why you're not seeing results. Now, the method that I use and why my ads work so well is because of this, okay? First is we show proof before I CTA any of my prospects. And what I mean by this, for example, is I show a video of me with Mondo in Times Square when we got our companies on a billboard, right? I'm letting Mondo speak for me. I have a screenshot of I have screenshots and videos of Wajid going from a negative 11.5K to $30,000 a month. And then as well, I have screenshots of my WAP and my fan basis payouts showing $45,000 in the last 30 days. Okay. Now, once that happens, essentially, prospects are going to click on my ad. And once they click on my ad, they're going to go to a landing page. On that landing page, what I do is I provide more value and even more proof. I give them more results, I give them more videos, more clients they can look at, and from there, all that's doing is building more proof and essentially getting them so bought in on who I am and the results, and they can also relate to that because I have clients that have been in similar positions as my prospects and have taken them to that next level, and that's what people can relate to. Okay, so I have case studies with real numbers, and more importantly, I show my own results. So I'm not faking stuff. I show the actual payment processes. I show screenshots of absolutely everything because the proof is in the pudding. Now, step number 3 is the ad strategy. So my ad strategy is the influence incubator. And in the influence incubator, this is how it works. So the top of funnel, essentially, I'm showing absolutely everyone all my results. Okay, so like I mentioned, we got Mondo, we have Wajid, we have Cameron. These are all ads that I'm actively still running. I'm sure some of you guys have even seen these. What I also do is show all of my results. So again, showing off my results on Instagram. I show off stuff on YouTube. I get people engaged with my content. I even go as far as filming 4 hours and 18-minute long videos, giving away absolutely everything. If you haven't, make sure you go check that out after this video. So in these videos, I'm giving away everything. The reason why I do that is because I'm giving you value and I'm giving you proof at the top of my funnel to then essentially what happens is in the middle of my funnel, I then to start reshaping your beliefs, I gain trust, and people start to get bought in on who I am and how I do things. So the goal of this is to build trust and reshape their beliefs. They start to see me as an authority who actually knows what they're talking about. So people start to consume all my content. For example, I show off client results here, right? I show off my agency doing $103,000 in 8 months. I show $10,000 deposits. And again, 4-hour trainings, $2,500 deals. I show onboarding my clients, right? Get them to feel like, oh, wow, that's a process. I want to be a part of that. There's FOMO there. And as well, live sales calls. I do breakdowns of all my deals, all my months. Ultimately, because I want you to be coming to me after you've seen that I provide value, after you see that I provide proof, to when you hop on a call with me, you just want to say, hey, Dorian, how do I implement this, right? Now, if people don't do that, they get to the bottom of the funnel, okay? Now, if someone watches all my content and they still haven't opted in or they haven't booked a call with me, what I then do is I retarget them. I shoot ads to them directly. That way they can't avoid me. I'm everywhere. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, I'm on their YouTube, I'm everywhere. And what I do is I then direct them to book a call and I send them to a landing page. On that landing page, it's going to show them everything of what I do. I'm also going to get them to watch a VSL. That VSL is going to break down absolutely everything on how I work and how I operate. Okay, so that is the the third step, and that's the bottom of the funnel. Now we have step number 4 is what this should be. Essentially is the exact metrics that you need to track. If you are not tracking these, I will tell you right now, you will never have a scalable and profitable business because you have no idea what the hell you're doing. Guys, it's very, very important that what you're doing here, it makes sense. You have to be able to know the targets, the metrics, the KPIs. You need these things. And without it, you're going to be in a complete disaster. Okay, so let's break it down. First thing is your cost per lead. Now, all around the board, it doesn't matter really what industry you're in. Now, it's going to vary depending on your industry, but around the board, I've seen once you've dialed in the messaging, you should be anywhere from $10 to $25 cost per lead, okay? Now, if you're running a profile funnel, it should be cost per follower anywhere from $3 to $6. On the other side, we have our show rate. Your show rate doesn't matter where you're in. Doesn't matter if you're in construction. I've been in one of the worst industries on earth and worst niches, and that was contractors, and I had a 70% show rate. So if you're below a 65% show rate, your metrics are off. Now, getting into it, our cost per call. So how much does it cost you to book a call? So if we have, let's say, 5 leads, and that's $50, let's say, essentially, for those 5 leads, we should probably be booking at least one of them. Now, let's say we spend $100, you should probably at least be booking one call, okay? So the $100 to $150, every $150 you spend on ads should be at least one booked call. Now, because we have to take in our show rate, We also track metrics like our cost per call taken, a very, very important indicator. A lot of people, what they optimize for is the cost per lead. They say, oh, I have great cost per lead. Meanwhile, their show rate sucks. Their cost per call is tanked through the roof, probably at $1,000. And they just think, oh, my lead cost is good. You guys cannot be tracking everything through your lead cost. You need to look at the more important metrics. And that's your cost per call and your cost per call taken. That is what I focus all my funnels on. The cost per call taken means you actually had someone join your call. So they showed up to your call. So for every $150 to $200, you should have a shown call. And again, that's with paid ads. Let me be honest with you guys. My close rate on average across every single industry has been over 30% minimum every single time. Okay, even with new offers, new industries, new targets, it's 30%. If you're not at least at a 20%, you have a sales issue. I don't care what anyone says. In your industry, if you tell me, hey, it's only a 10% around the board, that is not true. There's people out there, there's the big dogs like myself who are closing much, much well above 20%. So you need to make sure that you are closing above a 20% close rate to see a profitable business. Okay, now that is the final step of phase 2. If we get into phase 3 here, that is going to be our sales systems that get high show rates and high close rates. Now, step 1 to this phase is essentially the sales always happen before the call. What does that mean, right? People always say, well, no, Dorian, like on the call, you got to sit there and you got to convince people that that's when they buy. And that is not true. Unless you have people showing up to your calls for education, that is true because you have to convince everyone. What I do is pre-nurture every single person with pre-call. So what does that mean? Before the call, I give them information. I give them value. I give them proof. I give them all this up and before the call. So that way, when they join the call, it's a matter of let me answer a few more questions and let's get to it. I want to get inside. Like, Dorian, how do I set up? Right? So first thing is personalized videos. So I send everyone a personalized video. If you came through my funnel, you've probably gotten a personalized video from me saying, hey, my name is Dorian. Obviously, I'm sure you guys have taken a look at my YouTube. You saw my Instagram. If you haven't, I have a couple things I'm going to send you a link for, blah, 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 blah. I saw you booking a call for next time. Let's make sure that we show up on that call. We're going to be talking about this, this, and this, right? A quick 1-minute video kind of breaking down what the hell is the point of the call and who I am, okay? I don't care if someone's watched all my YouTube, all my Instagram. I still want to introduce myself and make sure that it's a personalized process. You guys need to make sure that you're doing things better than the competitors. You're personalizing everything. On that, I also have a confirmation page. So again, if you've come through my funnel, you guys have probably seen a confirmation page that looks something like this, right? So congrats, you booked your call. I send them to a pre-call video, and in that video, I explain a lot more in depth. I actually go as far as telling people like why they wouldn't be qualified for the offer, right? I go down and I give people more results, right? You got the top charts here, as you guys have heard so many times, Mondo, Wajid, and Cameron. I show off all those before that. Then as well, because you can't spam text people, you can't be sending them a bunch of emails, right? And I will get into that. But what I do, and there's no sort of cap on it, is I do retargeting ads. So I actually repurpose all my content and position the right pieces of content in front of the people who are booking calls. Now, once they go on Facebook or Instagram, or matter of fact, even YouTube, they're gonna be seeing my content over and over again. So again, once they get to that call, it's a matter of how can this essentially work for me and how do I get started? There's no like, oh, I don't believe this, or show me your process 15 more times. I don't do that on calls. Like I've shown you guys, I've done 24 minutes, paid in full, $7,500 deals. That's simply because I can do everything beforehand. I give everyone all the information up front. So I show testimonials. As you can see, I have all my testimonials together. And essentially, that is retargeting ads. So I use retargeting ads to make sure I can get in front of my prospect more times than just the 3 reminders that you can send out through text, right? Because you can't spam call people, you can't spam text people. So I get in front of them with the ads. Step number 2 is a sales call structure. Now, essentially, I make it very, very easy. First, I have a quick intro. Understand, like, what are you here for, right? How can I help you? Like, what content did you see exactly? And then from there, essentially, I get into qualifying, right? I want to understand, like, what are they doing? What do they need help with? And from that, like, where are you at right now? And where do you want to be, right? So I qualify all my prospects. And this is the exact script that I use. Very short and to the point. I don't have a long 12-page script because that's impossible to follow. I give you the exact script that I use to close to this day, and as well the exact scripts that all my clients are using. Mondo, Wajid, Cameron, we got Polo, we have Isaiah. All these guys have used this script, and they still continuously use this script. Now, after that, what I essentially do is I show them a roadmap. I show them exactly what I can do, right? So with that, I if they're just starting out, if we have to reposition their niche, they're not in the right niche, I don't see that it's scalable, we're going to reposition all this stuff. So the niche and offer, I help them give them all my automations, all my account setups, paid ads training, all there, all my ad strategies, all my back channel sales systems, which I've kind of went over a little bit, all of my sales. So absolutely everything, live sales calls, objection handling, literally everything that you need to do sales and be successful. The VSL and DSL breakdowns, onboarding, the entire automation, SOP, everything, all my fulfillment, everything you get, that's what I go over. I typically don't get any objections because, again, I give everyone everything up front so that they want to move forward. Thing is, once I've handled that, I then go on to close my deals. Okay, as you can see here, a couple deals at a $10,000 day, $2,800, $3,000, $7,500 a day, and that's ultimately what you get when you can show value and proof up front beforehand. I know a lot of you guys you're asking, what happens if they say, let me think about it, right? What happens if you do get objections? What happens if you think about it, or I need to go talk to XYZ, blah, blah, blah. What do you do? And it's pretty simple. Right? The think about it is nothing more than a smoke screen. A smoke screen is just someone, and a natural human tendency is to get out of something that they fear. They're in a position where you just told them a very high price and they want to get out of there. They want to run for the hills and they do not want to look back. And that's why people say they need to think about it. Honestly and truly, if you've given them all the information up front, they don't need to think about it. Okay? So you need to make sure that you're dealing with this beforehand. And essentially, a very, very easy way to go about that, one, is I give everyone every objection handle, everything that you've ever come across is going to be handled inside the training. So I need to think about it. I need to talk to my partner or anyone else. Fear objection, logistical objection. I've been burned before. I show you guys how to handle all those objections. Okay, so that is step number 3. Well, again, what do you do if they say, let me think about it? And it's as simple as saying, well, John, let me tell you this. Okay, let's imagine John is the prospect. Before you go ahead and you do think about it, right? Can I just ask, I guess, what is it that you want to go ahead and think about, right? You can also temp check them. You can say, okay, no problem. I'll let you go ahead and think about it. But I guess before you go ahead and think about it, do you think that what I've shown you today makes sense and is going to get you to XYZ? Yes? Okay. Well, that being said, what has you wanting to go ahead and think about it? Okay. That's as easy as it is to handle the I think about it objection. Now, let's get into the next phase here, which is going to be phase 4, the back-end systems and tracking. This is how you scale without burning out, okay? This is literally to a T how to do it, because I've seen way too often guys burn out because they try to do everything themselves. They don't have the right systems. They don't have the right tracking. They don't have the right automations, and that's when you fail, okay? So phase number 4, step number 1 is essentially what we call the tracking dashboard. So you need to be tracking absolutely everything. And these are dashboards and tracking systems that I give to all of my clients, okay? If you don't know your numbers, you're essentially what we call flying blind, okay? The most people that I talk to, they don't even know their show rate. And that's a huge, huge problem, because if you don't know your show rate, you don't know your cost per booking, you don't know your close rates, how are you essentially supposed to scale your ads? Okay? Because if you don't have these metrics, you're not going to know where people are dropping off in their funnels. You're not going to know your KPIs, where you should be within, how to turn off an ad, when to turn off the ad. You're not going to know if your sales reps are not doing well. You're not going to know if your show rate's tanking and people don't want to show up because they're looking for education if you don't know your numbers, right? So for me, nothing ever should be below a 65% show rate, like I had mentioned, and I went into detail. Your cost per book call, $100 to $150. These are all metrics that you need to know and you need to memorize, okay? The reason I say that is because you need to know these things in order to scale your business. And that's as simple as it is. For me, and when I cash collected $45,000, that was simply on $2,800 of ad spend. I had 349 extra followers that month. Guys, it's very, very simple. If you have the right process, you'll be able to scale. I had a 76% show rate. We had 8 new sales. That is what it takes, okay? You need to know these things. If you don't, you're going to be screwed up. As well, I didn't mention it, my close rate. My close rate was at a 67.8%. How do I know that? Because, again, I track absolutely everything, okay? So you need tracking systems. You need things like this. I can see all my closers. I can see all the information. I can see, the dates, their deals, literally everything. I can go into my setters. I can see everything but my setters, the dials I made, the pickups, the book calls, the pickup rate, right? The dials made, literally everything to a T, because that's what it takes to scale profitably. And that is how I hit the $45,827 there, okay? Step number 2 is a fulfillment and onboarding systems. Now, don't mind all the arrows got screwed up when I tried to minimize the size of this, but first things first, in the first 5 to 7 days of you onboarding a client is like the most important time, okay? Why do I say that? We have a thing called buyer's remorse. In the first 5 to 7 days, typically your prospect is going to be nervous, right? They're going to feel apprehensive. They're going to feel like, shit, did I do the right thing? Did I really, I just spent all this money. Is that the best decision? Could I have done it somewhere else? Is there someone better? Your client is thinking all these things no matter what. So it's very important in the first 5 to 7 days that you keep them busy and you get them quick wins. You get them to work as quickly as possible, okay? It's very, very important. If you are not doing this, you're essentially going to start churning and burning clients, people asking for refunds, people disputing you, because that's when the buyer's remorse kicks in and they want results immediately, okay? So first things first you need to do is you need to have a kickoff call, an onboarding call within 24 to 48 hours. I typically say I like to book my onboarding calls within 24 hours. So the same day or literally the day after. I've noticed once I start pushing it out, it doesn't work as well. I'll tell you a little story. I was onboarding someone. We pushed the call to the next day, okay? 24 hours. We did everything that we should. Then the prospect wanted to rebook it. Then they want to rebook again. They want to rebook again. They rebooked this call 5 times. Now, I already knew where this was going. I knew that this person was having buyer's remorse. I can already tell. When people are avoiding a call, when you just spent an X amount, like you spent mid 4 figures and higher, and you're not showing up to your onboarding call, I know what's going on. I had this person come back, and I already knew it. They wanted to request a refund, okay? They come now to us asking for a refund. Well, my team's already worked on everything. So then we had to go through a whole process there, which is a complete disaster. So you want to avoid that at all costs. Only way to avoid that is by getting people onboarded within 24 to 48 hours. If people want to start rebooking their calls, do not let them. Like, you need to push this in. In week 1, you want to set up all the dashboards, all the tracking, install any ad strategies, create all your ads. Again, the first batch of content ads needs to be set up in week 1. They need to see progression, okay? Like I mentioned earlier on, it's all about implementation. People want to see these things quickly, and they want it to be done quickly because they just spent money. They want to get an ROI as quickly as possible. So for you, you need to make sure that you are getting this information, the content, the ads, whatever your service is. Week 1, you need to be pushing out as much as you can. Okay. Now, in week 2, what I do is I then launch the system. So if you're running paid ads, you're going to be launching that system. I've had some where I've actually pushed it even faster. But majority of the time, after week 1, you're launching because you have all the systems, you have all the ads, you have all the automations, you already had your onboarding call, you have all the KPIs, everything that you need to launch profitably. So immediately we go in and we launch in week 2 the paid ads. And then ongoing, we have weekly one-on-one calls, 3 group calls per week, and 24/7 access to me. That is essentially how I onboard people, right? I get everything in and out as quickly as possible, because if you do not do this, you're going to have troubles with people asking for refunds and having what we call buyer's remorse. So just follow the exact onboarding process that I use, okay? Now, that's step number 2. Step number 3 is what we call retention and scaling. A lot of people think getting people to work with you got to close as much as possible, show some proof up front, and then you can kind of slack off a little bit because you've given them some sort of results. This is the only true testament to all this. Get client results and they stay. If you want people to stay for 6 months, get them results for 6 months. Don't expect to get people results for 1 month, 2 months, and then expect them to stay another 4 months. That is not how it's going to work. You need to be getting people results every single time, okay? Now, another thing is you do not need 50 clients to hit $100,000 a month, okay? You don't. And why do I say that? Well, for me, I work with a very small group of people, okay? I do one-on-one implementation, and I also partner with people who are already doing $30,000 a month, and I help them even scale further than that $30,000 a month. Now, what does that mean? Well, essentially, what I do is I have the one-on-one access to me, the 3 group calls per week, all my systems and personalized plans like I mentioned, but alongside the one-on-one, the prospects that are already doing $30,000 a month with, I partner. Okay, so I don't need 50 people to hit $100,000 a month. And why? This is how it works. First, I come into the business, I take full control, okay? I take full control of the marketing, I create all the ads, I create all the systems in the back end, I create all the messaging, the VSLs, the ad scripts, the landing page copy, literally everything to a T, the follow-up. Why? Because these people, what I do is I come in and I take a rev share of the profits that I make. Right? So that's how I hit $100,000 a month without needing 50 clients, because I have partners that come in, already doing X amount, and from there, which is 30,000 at minimum, then I partner with them and take a rev share because they already have the systems, they already have a proof of concept with their offer. I come in and implement everything that I do myself. So not just one-on-one, but I actually implement it so it's fully done for you. Okay, so that is how the step number 3 works. So you don't essentially need 50 clients to scale to 100K a month. You guys need to think of ways how to partner with the best businesses. That way that you can take a percentage of everything that you generate. Because I'll tell you right now, I've generated businesses in one job, $30,000 deals. Okay, I didn't get any of it, and that's when I first started out. You want to avoid that at all costs, because if you're getting someone $30,000 projects, you want to be fully part of that, right? You want to have some sort of piece of the pie. Okay, so that is step number 3 of the phase number 4. And then we're going to get into the final phase here, which is showing you real case studies and the proof in the systems that work. Everything that I do works, okay? And what do I mean by that? First we have is Mondo. Like I mentioned briefly, Mondo's went from $30,000 to $150,000 a month. When I first came to him, he was stuck and he couldn't scale. Okay. Now he was working 80 hours a week and burning out because he didn't have the right processes. So when I came in, what essentially we did is, one, we rebuilt his entire offer. Okay, and that's what we explained. If some of you guys have seen this video here, if you haven't, it's on my Instagram page. Go take a look at this. We rebuilt his entire offer, and that's what he explains. Now, the second part is we increased his pricing. As you can see here, we worked with Mondo very, very early on. And essentially, it's him telling us here, appreciate it, bro. Major thanks to Dorian. I've sold 4 $5,000 packages. Okay? That was essentially him going from $500 retainers to then going on to sell $5,000 packages. Now, how the hell did we do that? Okay? Well, what we did is, one, we installed tracking systems. So we installed things like what ads are working, what's our cost per book call, what's our cost per call taken, right? What ad specifically is generating the most amount of leads, what ads are generating the most amount of book appointments. We want to know all these things, okay? We get very in-depth. And once we implemented the tracking systems, what it allowed us to do is know what is working, okay? And because we knew what was working, we can increase the show rates, we can increase the close rates, because we ultimately have a better qualified prospect coming through our funnels. From there, what we then did is implemented the influence incubator ad strategy, which I've talked about already, and that is essentially what got him to this next level. Mondo has been featured on Iman Gotzi's channel, as you guys can see right here. Another one of Iman Gotzi's channel right here. He was flown out to Dubai by Iman Gotzi himself and given a free Rolex just because he had scaled the business to what it is now. Okay, so you guys gotta understand, this works. Everything that I've shown you here is what we use with Mondo throughout this entire video. We rebuilt his offer. We increased his pricing from $500 to $5,000 in the first, literally, I think it was like 2 weeks or first week. He had closed 4 deals at $5,000, right? And then we installed the tracking systems. That way we can understand what's working. And then we ran the influence incubator ad strategy, which ultimately has gotten him to that $150,000 a month mark. Okay, now case study number 2 here is Wajid, who went from negative 11.5K in debt to upwards of $30,000 a month in less than 60 days. Very, very important. I mentioned before, he was 6 months in debt. 6 months, no results. Running his business, spending ads, paying for courses, going course to course, like literally going course to course, and no results. Now, once we came into his business, essentially what we did is similar to Mondo, okay? We came in and rebuilt his entire offer. Okay, now this is a little testimonial, if you want to call it that, but a written message from Wajid. Working with Dorian has been a total game changer for my agency. He helped me scale faster and more strategically than anyone else, and has spent a lot of money on different programs. Dorian is incredibly knowledgeable and a deep understanding of what it takes to grow and scale a business the right way. What I appreciate the most is how accessible he is, always quick to respond, and willing to hop on a call whenever I need clarity or direction. His mentorship goes far beyond the surface level of advice. He truly makes the time to understand your business, identify blind spots, and map out a clear plan for your growth. My agency wouldn't be where it is today without his guidance. Like I mentioned, guys, anyone that comes through, it's fully personalized, no cookie cutter bullshit. We get right to it and figure out how you can scale your business. Now, here's some results from Wajid, right? He is started taking some rev share deals, 1.5K setup plus a 9% rev share. Like I mentioned, that's where the big money is. 2 big closes today. How much? Total 10.5K. Another 1.5K deal here. I think it's a $2,000, $2K setup. 3K after he gets a job for 3 months. And if you guys have probably seen here, this is Wajid himself. So he had to close 7 clients, and he's at 25K a month with those 7 clients. And then this as well is the tracking system, which I'll get into in a sec. So like I mentioned, we built out a real offer. We set up his paid ads, right? It ultimately gathered all these results here and over here. And then from that, what we had done is we installed the backend systems, the backend tracking systems that looks something like this. So I do this for all my clients, whether you work with local businesses or you run an info product, does not matter. We track the ad spend, the total leads, your cost per lead, unique link clicks, your funnel conversion, qualified leads versus unqualified leads, your schedules, total appointments, your appointment percentage, conversion rate, like your cost per booking, cost per call taken. We track every single metric. Like I said, we're huge on metrics. If you don't know your metrics, you don't run a business, okay? I can tell you every single metric about my business without even looking at anything. I can tell you over and over again, no matter what. Case study number 3 here, we have Cameron. Cameron went from $500 packages to $3,500 deals. And like I mentioned, Cameron came through, he was selling $500 retainers with people that essentially didn't want to spend money. All he could do was sell a website. People that he would ask to, run an ad. Hey, you want to run ads? If I build your website, let's drive some traffic. They say no, because they're unqualified. They're not high tier prospects. So he's working his ass off for literal peanuts. And that's what you might be doing right now. Working your ass off every single day, every single week, and you're collecting peanuts. So we repositioned his offer here, and that's in this video. Again, on my Instagram, you guys can come take a look at that. Once we repositioned his offer, we then increased his pricing. So we repositioned his offer by saying, hey, I'm not just a person that creates websites. What I do is I drive qualified traffic to your business. That way you show up to someone's house because he's working with local businesses. You would show up to the house and you would close and do what you do best, right? That's how we position his offer. It's not, oh, I create websites or I'll create this. We talk about the outcome. So we repositioned his offer and increased his price from $500 to $3,500, as you can see in the sale here, right? So that's $3,500 there. And then what we did is we ran ads to the right audience. Like I mentioned, he's already asked prospects before to run ads and they wouldn't. So what we've done is essentially it generates people who have $500,000 to $2 million in revenue a year. And from that, as you can see here, these are all qualified guys who actively want to work with him. They've all opted in and they want to work with Cameron. So that is how that essentially works there, guys. And just to name a few others, we have Tarek here. Within the first week, I literally think it was first 4 days of Tarek working with us, he went on to close a $3,000 deal. So yeah. And we also have Polo, who's an 18-year-old who closed 2 $500 deals before he even launched his ads. Okay. And he just recently, the other day, closed today's the 8th day, on the 7th or 6th, he closed another deal. So, but it doesn't matter, guys. This process works for absolutely everybody. So let's recap here pretty quickly on all the 5 phases. So phase number 1 was building an offer that attracts qualified buyers. Know exactly who you're targeting. Don't try to help everyone. Build your offer around implementation, not just coaching, and position it around the results, right? Give value and results first, whether it's your results or your client's results. Phase number 2, we went over, is the paid ads that actually work. So no more burning your money. Now, call it the top of your market. People are already doing $20,000, $50,000 a month who have the budget, just how I do. Run proof-based ads, clients' results, your own results, give value. That way people are like, oh, I trust this guy. I like this guy. I like what I'm seeing. And then they come to you. Not just, hey, come book a call. I'll scale your business. That doesn't work. Use the influence incubator strategy. Show the proof first, show the value, then the nurture. So get them to see you over and over again, and then CTA them. Okay. And then the last here is track your metrics so you know that what's working. Number 3 is sales systems that get high show rates and high close rates. So the sales happen before the call. Again, make sure you have the pre-call nurture with proof and value. You have the sales call structure, which is qualifying, show the roadmap, and then you close them. If there's ever objections, if you follow this process, you're not going to have any. But if there's ever objections, you'll know how to handle them. And the high show rates and close rates that are coming from only talking to qualified people who already trust you. Phase number 4, we have the back-end systems and tracking. This is how you scale without burning out. So track everything: cost per lead, cost per booking, show rate, close rate, cash collected, world-class onboarding, and get them their first client in the first month, okay? Essentially, $10K a month within 2 months. And retention through results. Phase number 5 here, and the final phase is real case studies and proof and systems work. So you don't need 50 clients to hit $100,000 a month, okay? You can use rev share, get a part of those bigger contracts, the bigger deals that you make, and work with the right people. Get them results and scale through partnerships or high ticket offers. So there you have it, the complete system for scaling your consulting or agency business to $30,000 a month and beyond in 2026. This is the exact process that I've used to go from $18,000 in debt to cash collecting $44,000 in the last 30 days. And it's the same system that my clients have been using to go from stuck at $10K to $30K a month to doing $50K to $100K and even $150,000 per month plus. Now, I know this is a lot of information, and honestly, the video just scratches scratches the surface. There's so many nuances: how to write ad copy that converts, how to handle objections on sales calls, how to install tracking dashboards, how to structure your onboarding, that I couldn't cover all in one video. But if you take what I've given you here and you actually apply it, you'll get ahead of 90% of the people trying to scale a consulting business. The key is just stop guessing, stop burning money on ads that don't work, and start to use a proven system. If you want to go deeper, I have tons of other videos on this channel breaking down specific parts of the process, the ad strategies, the sales systems, the back-end tracking. All of it is fully done for you on this channel. So make sure you're subscribed, and if you ever want more hands-on help, I do work with a very, very small group of agency owners and consultants inside my mentorship program. There's a link in the description if you want to learn more, but honestly, just start. Pick one thing from the video. Don't wait a week, don't wait 2 weeks, don't wait a month. Take action today, okay? That's how you build something real. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.